As Muslim communities struggle in Europe, some look to the United States for a better model of integration. Pollution in Uganda becomes a silent killer. And a pop superstar announces her engagement and shows off some hefty bling. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Lenore Moudou. This is Africa 54. Vincent McCurry is on assignment. The White House Summit on Countering Violent Extremism is underway here in Washington, D.C. The summit aims to highlight American and international efforts to prevent violent extremists and their supporters from radicalizing, recruiting, or inspiring individuals or groups in the United States and abroad to commit acts of violence. Vice President Joe Biden opened the summit Tuesday by saying the fight has to go beyond just using military force.
Societies have to provide an affirmative alternative for immigrant communities, a sense of opportunity, a sense of belonging, and that discredits the terrorist appeal to fear, isolation, hatred, resentment. And we also have to, police have to build partnerships within religious and business and civic communities. But we've also brought along all those folks in here. We have religious leaders here, we have the business community, civic leaders, all with one purpose in mind. How do we counter the appeal of radicalization?
And Vice President Biden was joined at the White House by leaders from Boston, Los Angeles, and Minneapolis, three big U.S. cities with large populations of immigrants. Youth outreach programs in these cities have been successful in integrating youth immigrants into society and away from the marginalization and anger extremists exploit when luring potential terrorists. Biden says he believes America has a lot more experience in integrating minority youth into society than European nations. Officials from 60 countries are attending the White House summit. President Barack Obama plans to speak later today. As the U.S. and its allies work to stem the flow of foreign fighters to Iraq and Syria, Muslim communities are struggling. Activists say many communities, especially in Europe, are watching extremist groups like the Islamic State target and recruit their youth. And some wonder whether these communities have the power or the resources to stop it. VOA's Jeff Selden reports.
Oslo, Norway, one of a growing number of places in Europe Muslims have been calling home. And like many in such communities, Norway's Muslims are battling to keep their youth from the clutches of groups like the Islamic State.
I usually describe these leaders of these groups as the world's best social workers.
An activist reaching out on social media, Yosef Bartho Asadik, was once himself recruited by extremists. He spoke to VOA via Skype.
This youth, they need something every day. I mean, it's impossible for a mosque to have all these other activities.
Experts say Muslim communities in Europe face several challenges. They're often split along ethnic lines.
Et notre solidarité.
And despite some recent public support after terror attacks in France and elsewhere, help from governments has been inconsistent, especially when it comes to youth, says Professor Kelly Pemberton at George Washington University.
Part of the attraction to extremist ideologies has to do with their own isolation in European society, the discrimination that many of them face.
And with the growing backlash, Pemberton worries whether needed support will come at all. Such scenes stand in contrast to the safety and inclusion these Muslim children of different backgrounds feel at the All Dulles Area Muslim Society in Sterling, Virginia, learning to sell Girl Scout cookies. Parents like Hassan Al-Talib are grateful.
It makes us really feel that we're secure and we have reach back into the things that we need as parents.
Centers like this one, offering lots of activities, are seen as a sign of the success Muslims have had in America. Now, some organizations want to take that success and export it to Europe. One such group is the Islamic Society of North America's Office for Interfaith and Community Alliances, led by Saeed Saeed, who argues Muslim communities in Europe must also step up.
Speaking different languages, keeping themselves tied to their original countries, and not making an extraordinary effort. It's not an easy thing to redefine their identity.
Saeed's made several trips to Europe to establish contacts and try to help. The worry is that for some young Muslims, time may be running out.
If they are disgruntled, if they are disaffected, there is this other alternative that they get on the internet.
It's an alternative that these Muslim families in Virginia hope their children will never be tempted to seek out. Jeff Selden, VOA News, Washington.
Now, the United Nations Security Council is scheduled to hold an emergency session Wednesday on the crisis in Libya. Libya's neighbor, Egypt, launched airstrikes targeting IS in Libya this week after militants beheaded 21 Egyptian Coptic Christians in Libya. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi wants the Security Council to formally allow international military intervention in Libya. UN humanitarian rights chief Zaid Ra'ad al-Hussein called the massacre a vile crime. He urged Libyans to unite against extremists. And Nigerian forces claim they have killed more than 300 Boko Haram fighters as they seek to recapture 11 towns and villages in the northeast. Boko Haram's relentless attacks on military and civilians have killed thousands since the group launched its violent campaign in the mid-2009. But in the past 2 weeks, the tide has appeared to turn against them as neighbors Chad, Cameroon, and Niger, all of whom are plagued by Boko Haram insurgents, have brought in troops. Now, for more, VOA's Hausa service reporter Ibrahim Hamed joins us by phone from Kano in northern Nigeria. Ibrahim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, there seems to be some success in terms of fighting Boko Haram since the three countries have joined Nigeria in this fight. However, we still see some violence. Can you give us a sense of what the situation is presently?
Well, there have been some success, especially with the involvement of Chad Republic, which has captured a lot of Nigerian border towns from the Boko Haram militants, especially along the Cameroonian border, where it captured Gamboru, and along the Nigeria border, where it captured Malam Fatori and Abadam. The Nigerian military has also been stepping up its attacks on Boko Haram. Just in the past few days, it has captured Monguno and Marte, two towns which have been in the hands of Boko Haram for months now. But still, there is a sense among the people in Nigeria that this fight is going to be a long time. Okay. And the Nigerian military needs all the help it could get from foreign countries, especially its neighbors, before this can be brought to an end.
Now, Boko Haram leader just released a video where he threatened to disrupt the elections next month. The elections had been postponed already. What do you make of this threat, and how significant is this in terms of impacting the election next month?
Well, over the past weekend, the Boko Haram militants came all the way south from Borno State and attacked the city of Gombe, which borders Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, the three states which were under the state of emergency. When they came, they were not attacking people or anything like that, but they came in a huge military convoy and they were distributing leaflets warning people to stay away from the polls because they said they were going to attack the polling stations on election day. That was their main mission of
and Ibrahim, thank you.
Gombe.
Thank you for joining us, Ibrahim. And that was Ibrahim, VOA's reporting live from Kano, northern Nigeria. Now, nearly 4 years of conflict in Syria have sent more than 5 million Syrians into neighboring countries where they face many challenges. Turkey is hosting more than 1.5 million of these refugees, and Turkish humanitarian groups have stepped up to help. VOA's Scott Bob reports from a community center in southeastern Turkey.
On a wintry day in the old quarter of Şanlıurfa, young Syrian refugees work on a project at the Urfa Community Center. Today, they're to illustrate the story of two friends who drift apart after one of them befriends a girl, and how they eventually reconcile. There is a purpose to the exercise, says social worker Mahmoud Sleibi, who himself fled Syria 2 years ago.
When they are taking these activities, they are feeling more hope. They are saying, we can do it, we can do. Yani, first of all, when they start to come from Syria to Turkey, they don't have any hope to continue their life. But now we start to do simple things to make them stay in this life in a good way.
Many refugees suffer from fear, anxiety, and stress. The center calls in psychologists to deal with severe cases. It also has programs to help the refugees adjust to the different culture in Turkey. One of these is Turkish language classes. In another room, women take sewing lessons. They ask that their faces not be shown. They are learning to make clothes for their families or to sell. And there are free computers and internet access to help students with their studies or those who just want to communicate with family members. One of the center's officers, Umutcan Yüksel, says integrating into the local society sometimes is difficult for the refugees.
When they first came to Turkey, host community welcomed them. But after some economic and some social problematic, they separated. Maybe violence is becoming, and after that we have for these intercultural activities.
The center's 34 staff and 100 volunteers have helped more than 20,000 refugees since it opened 18 months ago. Workers say their greatest joy is seeing the change in the young children.
Children first came to here, they are silence, always silence. But after 2 or 3 months, they can make children theater, and we improve their self-trust. We improve their self-respect in here. I think biggest achievement in here, this.
He says when the children first arrived, their drawings were about war and violence. Now, he says, they draw flowers. Scott Bobb, VOA News, Şanlıurfa, Turkey.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, how Uganda's small farmers are adapting their practices to stay in business. Stay with us.
I am Shaka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international calling talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Agriculture is Uganda's most important economic sector, employing over 80% of the workforce. Now, some of the nation's small-scale farmers are rethinking agriculture, investing in modern farming methods that improves productivity. VOA's Pauline Diho has more.
Agriculture experts have said that Africa's small-scale farmers can play a key role in ending food insecurity on the continent if they are included in the food value chain, even though there is still a lot to be done to increase both food and cash crop production. This can only be attained through improved agriculture. In Uganda, one small-scale farmer is investing in new farming methods. Rebecca Pearl Tumwebaze is part of this growing community of farmers giving agriculture a second chance. Based in the Mukono district of central Uganda, she has been able to utilize about 10 acres of land to practice modern agriculture by raising pigs, dairy cows and chickens.
I choose not to buy food because I can grow my food here. The food that I buy is that I can't grow. But other than that, all my food comes from here.
Like many farmers, Rebecca Pearl is optimistic about the opportunities in agriculture for young people in Uganda. She understands the hard work and commitment it takes to find success.
I associate with a lot of farmers, and I notice most of the farmers are illiterate. Most of the farmers don't know their products. They don't know what they're doing. They just gamble. The difference with me is that I understand this. I read about it. And normally when we go to school, we don't think about what we study, but I choose to study what I do, where my interest is, and what I'm practicing.
Pearl says that since adopting modern methods, her farm has been able to increase yields and earns her about $3,500 a month. Lately, she has started a zero-grazing, genetically improved cows. They are kept in stalls and fed with fodder, and cut and carried to them daily.
Significance with zero grazing is that this cow rests a lot. It sits here, its food is right there, its water is right there. So it is able to drink. And when it drinks, the more it's able to rest, and its body can form the milk that we want to get from it.
But she also admits that after noticing the rapidly evolving pork culture in Uganda, she felt the need to take advantage of the potentially huge market for pork and pork products. Despite the success of Orchard Farm, Uganda's agriculture sector faces various challenges, such as traditional cultivation methods, dependency on rain-fed agriculture, limited technological application, and low productivity. Rebecca Pearl is also currently pursuing her PhD in Business Information Systems, looking at how to use information computer technology, or ICT, to enhance business processes, monitoring and decision-making among farmers. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
Now, one of the biggest killers in developing Africa is pollution. And with rapid urbanization come fears the number of deaths will only multiply. In Uganda, the effects of pollution on people are becoming more visible. Sergino Rosblad reports from Kampala.
It may be one of the most underestimated causes of death in developing countries, pollution. The World Health Organization says more than 8 million people die around the world each year as a result of living in a polluted environment. Here in Kampala, Dr. Kigundu Tamale says the effects of air pollution are becoming more and more noticeable.
Air pollution has become one of the biggest challenges faced in Uganda, especially in urban centers. In Uganda, the main cause of air pollution is transport, especially rapid motorization that is being experienced in urban centers. But then there are other causes, like mining, for example, open waste burning.
Doctors say it's often difficult to tie someone's health problems specifically to air pollution. In recent years, though, doctors in Uganda have seen an increase in the number of patients with lung problems. Dr. William Worodria says air pollution has multiple effects.
And particularly affecting the lungs, the heart, and other body systems. In the lungs, you may have chronic lung diseases like bronchial asthma, chronic obstructive lung diseases. Even lung cancer has been reported associated with air pollution.
Worldwide, the WHO says pollution kills more people than malaria, HIV/AIDS, and tuberculosis combined. Yet pollution often remains under the radar of policymakers. Studies by Ugandan scientists suggest that about 14% of children between the ages of 8 and 14 living in Kampala have bronchial asthma. Dr. Worodria says researchers found similar results in one of Uganda's rural districts.
They looked at other forms of pollution, which include indoor pollution from smoke and other things. And again, about 14% of inhabitants in that rural district had some form of chronic obstructive lung disease.
Scientists and health officials say one of the reasons air pollution is not a higher priority is that it's less visible than other problems.
For example, if you have poor road infrastructure, this is visible now. If you don't have electricity, this is visible. So our politicians tend to focus more on problems that are visible by people. But air pollution is less visible, and therefore our decision makers or policy makers do not see it as a priority.
Recently, however, Ugandan health officials and the government have started a campaign to raise awareness about lung diseases caused by air pollution. One suggested approach includes trying to get people out of their cars and walking before Uganda becomes congested not only by cars but by the exhaust fumes. Serginho Roosblad for VOA News, Kampala.
Still to come on Africa 54, a Valentine's Day surprise for one of the world's biggest pop stars. But first, a recap of Wednesday's headlines. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In Niger, thousands marched to show their support for the country's army after a series of attacks by Boko Haram. Egypt calls for international intervention in Libya after launching airstrikes on Islamic State targets following the beheading of Egyptian Christians. In Nigeria, several people are wounded and one policeman is killed following an explosion in southern Nigeria's River State ahead of the March elections. Finally, in Namibia, two Scottish ultra-runners complete an epic 500-kilometer trek across the country's desert in 9 days. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. This is no bad romance for pop superstar Lady Gaga. Gaga and her actor boyfriend Taylor Kinney are engaged. She posted a picture of her massive platinum and diamond heart-shaped engagement ring on Instagram with the message, "He gave me his heart on Valentine's Day, and I said yes." Gaga recently won a Grammy Award for her album Cheek to Cheek with legendary crooner Tony Bennett. Kinney stars in the NBC series Chicago Fire. We don't know about you, but we can't wait to see what the wedding dress will look like. Next up, cricket fans across India broke into celebrations as Team India beat Pakistan at the opening of the 2015 World Cup. Stadium. With up to 1 billion more around the world in the tip captain's hometown of Ranchi in eastern India, fans lit firecrackers and danced on the streets. India won the 10th Cricket World Cup in 2011 against Sri Lanka by 6 wickets in Mumbai and became the first country to win Cup final on home soil. And finally, is this the future of financial news? These computer servers are now writing earnings reports that were once written by people. The Associated Press is in partnership with Automated Insights to take advantage of that company's algorithms, which can generate an earnings story in a matter of seconds. For years, AP journalists have spent hours crunching numbers and rewriting information from companies. And as they say, time is money, and that's what's trending today. Magical canes, mysterious boxes, and funerary masks are a few of the objects from Congo on display for the first time in the U.S. Zoe Lwadaki spotted the exhibition at Princeton University.
With us today from our studios in New York City is Juliana Dweck, Curatorial Fellow of Princeton University Art Museum. Welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
The exhibition Congo Across the Waters is the first time that we have an exhibition from that part of the world here in North America. Tell us a few things about it. What makes it special?
Congo Across the Waters is an exhibition that explores exchanges of art and ideas that occurred over 500 years and 4 continents. It focuses on the Kingdom of Congo, which was a kingdom probably since the 14th century, spanning areas of present-day DRC, Republic of Congo, and Angola. The exhibition presents religious objects, royal regalia, and magnificent examples of minkisi, or spirit containers, that together show how exchange with Europe, religious exchange, political as well as commercial, that began as early as 1483, influenced Congo art. The real contribution of the exhibition is to show how Congo art and culture were transmitted to the Americas as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, and how American dance, music, and the arts more broadly are deeply shaped by this Congo legacy.
What would you like the visitor to take away from this exhibition?
I think for many Americans, ideas about Africa are painted in very broad strokes. But this exhibition shows how certain African elements in American culture can actually be identified with this very specific Congo culture. And you see this very visibly in the exhibition through African-American grave objects and finely carved wooden staffs or canes that belonged to African-Americans that have very tangible Congo analogies.
How has the art from Congo influenced contemporary artists?
Congo's rich artistic heritage, Congo as an established kingdom, and Congo with a C as a nation that has suffered deeply in its colonial and post-colonial periods have been tremendous sources of inspiration and material for artists working around the world. And I'll give 2 examples from the exhibition, 2 quite different examples. One is the artist Renee Stout, who lives and works in Washington, D.C. Her work in the exhibition responds in a very visual and visceral way to Congo minkisi, or containers for powerful spirits. Another example is the artist Steve Bandoma from the Democratic Republic of Congo. His collage pieces in the exhibition draw imagery from contemporary media and magazines to interrogate post-colonial politics and to take on issues of race, religion, violence, and Western consumerism.
Juliana Dweck, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa, between 300 and 600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and good night from Washington.
Hockey's my passion, but it's not always easy standing out on the ice. I credit my parents with giving me the discipline and confidence to follow my dream. I became the first black official for the National Hockey League. To me, Black History Month celebrates sacrifices like my father made to give our multicultural family a better life. My name is Jay Shares, and I'm an official for the National Hockey League.
Music is something that brings people together.
Music educates, it motivates, it's a bridge.
Music. Ali.
On
VOA.
I am Sheka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent.